Live.
Alright.
Is mine red?
No, you're blue.
We blue. Or as that song goes, I'm blue.
I'm blue, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna
That was not
I was
exactly that right there.
with a ton of friends this weekend, and I have no idea why, but it's just, I guess, a part of who I am. It just randomly starts singing songs that are just stuck in my head, and it just comes out at the most random times. So as soon as you said that, in my head, all I could hear is, I'm blue, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna
That must have been lit, like in the clubs, like in the, since you're old, like in the OOs.
I can say I'm old enough to have been in a club and had that song put on, yeah.
And how was it?
It's a jam,
Was
man.
it lit?
It's one of those simple songs that has like simple syllables that everybody, whether you're enjoying yourself or not, you just tune into and sing.
or on whatever wavelength they're on.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to say. The PG version. But it was a banger in the club back in the day.
Good at
you just taking shots at my age.
At these Premier League coach answers. You're becoming really good at them.
Thank you. I'm working
the
on
professional, ambiguous.
There's a lot of
answers to
people
questions.
in my past that would be proud to hear you say that I've gotten better at my professional slang. Because there was probably 5 or 6 years there where I didn't care for it. I didn't see the importance of it. I just said and did as I felt. And I realized as a young man in an old man's game, that is not the wisest move to make. And so it took me years to learn what it meant to be professional, how not to push people the wrong way from just, like we said in our last podcast, the terminology used sometimes is interesting. It's like people like discretion, and I get that. I do. Especially in business. Like, I understand why it's important. But, yeah, just not that spirit, man. I'm just honest to a fault, they say. I'm honest to a fault sometimes. But it's cool, man. I'm working on it.
I thought about honest to the T.
No, so honest to the T means like you're honest, like nobody could ever distrust a thing you say because you're just always honest. Sometimes in a practice when we're training together and I go, what's the score to a certain player, and it's a particular guy, I go, oh, he'll never lie to me. Those guys are honest to a T. Honest to a fault is like you've never learned to withhold information just to save your skin. You just say everything, even knowing that by saying those things you could put yourself in trouble where it's gonna cause a rift. That's honest to a fault. You don't care. You just speak.
Wow, we're going back to terminology now, man.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's all good, dog. It's all good. It's Monday, January 15th, and
this is Pitch Side Prospects.
It is Pitch, and no matter how we come, and it still is Pitch Side Prospects. You had a very eventful weekend.
Yeah, I'm still in recovery mode. I can't lie. I was with friends all weekend. I had a lot of fun. I'm extremely tired. But I'm here for it, and I'm happy we're pushing through to do it too, because one, it makes for a real podcast, and two, it marks 4 months of us doing this. Being the 16th episode would put us at 4 months. And
That's right.
And we were talking a lot this week about it and how has it like developed and turned into something, evolved almost. And we're looking into a list of guests to bring in for the next like couple of weeks of podcasts. And as we do this more and more, I feel like it evolves and develops into something deeper and deeper. So that's again why I feel like it's good we're pushing through to do it today. I'm literally, if energy was a bar, I'm at 10%. What was that?
Hey. George. What's up, George?
What's up, George? Yeah, some real life shit, It's just the neighbor shit. But yeah, no, it's cool. I really enjoyed going through this process with you and then also doing the podcast. Like, through the process, we're getting to connect with a lot of people in football in the city, which is cool. We get to dive into the reflection of our own game and teams, coaching, and that's cool. And I really just think it leads to something in the future that we can't see yet. And the more that we do it, the better.
I like that you put it that way, because I feel like my this is weird to say, my personal brand as a coach is growing now. I've got people making memes out of me and stuff like that right after games, and like people like asking me, oh, when am I gonna get a man of the match interview?
So you
Like
like
the
to
people
poke people, so you're
people
getting
from
poked.
no. That's a potential offside right there. That's a VAR check. That's a sensitive subject right now, eh?
Back in the day in
Yeah.
Facebook, you could poke people, and you would poke them back. You're a poker. That's you.
No. Oh yeah, offside. That's a good offside catch. No, but I like to see that our like brand is starting to just get recognized more and more from people, and like the simple things that you and I do, that's like the podcast and interviewing people, and like from in my team doing man of the match interviews, it's getting attention from kids that like would want their coach to be doing that, would want their coach to highlight the good players that do good in the game, and even gives them a little motivation to be that guy, you know?
I think it helps with you also give you a little chip in your pocket for relatability, like with your teams.
Yeah.
Being able to function and post and be, how do you say, like live on social media with their current season gives that relatability to let them, not let them, but allows them to buy in even deeper and helps them too.
Yeah, and then also like this is a tough thing to say, but I also have to like monitor
Oh yeah.
what goes on,
Oh
because
yeah.
like let's say if we beat our rivals and now I post something about the game, and then the boys are like, yeah, they suck, they're not good. I'm like,
It can't happen.
calma. And you know
Can't
what's
happen.
so crazy is we have to play them again.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're gonna be smack talking
You know what would be
before you
important?
guys play them again?
Yeah, you know what would be
No
important, and I think it'd be a
manches.
good move for you, is to give them just like a little one course, one day where you come together, you give them some social media etiquette, some, so they can see that their leader too is letting them know like you need to be careful with this stuff, and then they might think twice before they just
It's funny
immediately,
that you bring that up,
you know.
because we were doing a man of the match interview, and it was with our captain, and he was saying like, this may not be so good to say, but he was
Opa,
saying like,
opa.
he was like, yeah, we got a good result against a team that wasn't so good, and I'm like, hey yo, hey,
Nice.
calma,
We got a
calma,
good result.
calma, yeah. Like you can't say the other team isn't good, you know?
Yeah, no.
Because and then you think about, oh well, 3-0, like if they weren't that good, it shouldn't have been like
10-1.
5-0. Oh, hey, what's against that, man?
It's just a blowout. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But no, I've been really enjoying that, like becoming more present in social media, you could say, and I can see the people around are enjoying the content. The boys enjoy it, and it all in all creates a good environment for the team.
Yeah, no, it's a wholesome process. Really, I truly feel that way because for us it's beneficial. I see the benefit in to those players and people and coaches who watch it. And then upon reflection, I never really thought this, but I said it at the very beginning, and again it's happening where I'm realizing the depth of the self-reflection that I'm getting from just doing the podcast, then reviewing it, then editing it, and then posting it is actually giving a lot of insight on who I am as a person. Like, which is a crazy process because you think as you get closer to 30, that becomes not only relevant but more apparent who you are and how to feed your soul. And it's just been an interesting process because now, upon my own self-reflection through the podcast, I feel like I'm gaining a better understanding of who I am, both as
Yeah.
a coach and a person. And I don't care where you are in life. That's always a good thing.
And you're talking about social media etiquette. Another like added plus, a way I could frame it to the boys is like, hey, you guys are getting ready and getting used to being in front of a camera, like not being afraid of actually talking to that little lens right there, and giving yourself to the camera, not being fake,
You had it right.
being true to
Expressing
your
yourself,
value. Yeah.
man. Expressing yourself. And not only that, your things that you post on social media will follow you. Just take it from somebody who was raised in the generation that brought them to the forefront. No matter how many social medias do pop up or disappear, what you put on those platforms will follow you, especially if you're trying to be a high caliber athlete. One of the first things top level programs do is vent out any internet nonsense that you have about yourself. it's one of the first and foremost, especially if you're scholarship or paid player. Either way, the first thing they're going to do is vet who you are as a person. And if they can go on the internet and type your name in and the first thing they see is cuss words or pictures that shouldn't be there or you doing things that it's an immediate mark against you, you're not getting the call back. You're not getting the money. So it's one of those things that I get it in high school. There's no experience for those kids at that age to really understand the depth of the importance of being wise with your social media. But then after coaching for 10 years, I've seen players literally fall through that hole and lose their career, and it's like, that wasn't worth it. That was, and I can say from my own regard and the things that I've done in the past, like, that is never worth it. So when you're thinking about social media, think twice.
That's a good that's an excellent segue. And I got to talk about a story of the game that I went to. I went to go watch the Cholos versus America.
Oh yeah.
It was the first what do you call it? The first match day of the season, and America being the champions of the Mexican
So
League.
Liga MX just kicked off their league.
So they
this
have like
past weekend.
it's like two like seasons. They have like the first season and the second season.
Or is either one more important than the other?
No, they both have their own trophy to them.
Okay.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's
kind of stupid.
It's the first I've ever heard of it.
Kind of stupid.
I'm probably gonna pick your brain more about that.
Yeah, maybe. It's a little dumb, but
Okay.
but it's to maximize money. I feel like.
Okay.
But anyway, went to go watch these guys play, and I think the most interesting thing that was happening in the stadium. This is hilarious, bro. There was a kiss cam going on, and like the whole second half, it was this like super hot girl, and then like a normal guy.
They kept going back.
Yeah, he kept going back to the same
And she
people.
kept saying no.
Yeah, then she kept saying no.
Oh boy.
And then everyone like when the kiss cam wasn't going on and the game got all boring, everyone just started saying beso, like kiss, 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 and everyone in the freaking stadium was looking at these guys. I was like, bro, poor guy, man.
Poor woman.
That has to be like
deny him over and over.
That
again.
has to be like the worst like thing that happened to you in a stadium. It's part of the game. And going back to the game, what actually happened? It was nice to see my local team Cholos like actually try and play and dominate a game. They were playing a nice little 3-4-3.
Okay.
Like in possession, but out of possession it was like a 4-3-3.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their one target man that they like to get. He's some big, bald, 6'2", 6'3" guy. So they just try and find him in the air.
Give him a little time to push up, get closer, and connect.
Yeah, he was trying to use his big butt to like get back into defenders and stuff.
Doing Lukaku
And
things.
it was working, but like they didn't create any like decent chances.
Were they, when they were finding the target striker, were they able to get it into wide zones after that very often?
No, it was very like play underneath, and then they try to shoot like from there. There was a lot of shooting from like at the D of the box.
I feel like when you're playing through your target striker and you fail to generate width after bringing the ball into that central pocket, it really doesn't do all that much good for you in creation and offense.
Well, and you know what happens too is like, let's say they were trying to play this target striker. If they played out wide, the wide man would play very quickly like a ball into the box, and they wouldn't like try and
develop something deeper than that.
Yes, and that's something that when I saw Jesse Marsh and he was talking about like crossing is a good action in the game. I think like majority of coaches would say if we get into the final third, a cross would be good, right?
Yeah.
But he goes into more detail. A cross outside of the box in the wide space is pretty hard to score from if you look at it. Like you have to find somebody inside the box. They have to actually win the ball from the defender and the goalie if he comes out to go get it. Like, and then you have to redirect that into goal.
Yeah, no, I think it's higher percentage opportunity when the half space is available and you're playing across from the outside of the box before all the players have arrived into the box, where that space can be exploited between the goalkeeper and the furthest man.
So that's when like you're talking about an early
percentage.
cross.
Yeah.
An early cross, I agree,
Through the
because
half space.
but that's where the space is,
Because
right?
the half space, yeah. And then it's like when everybody's already there and waiting in the area, it's probably one of the hardest ways to score.
And think about it, like the defense has more time to react because you're further away, so they can see the ball more in while it's traveling.
The real only advantage we have in that scenario is our momentum is taking us in direction towards the goal, and we have the power of momentum on our side. But you realistically can only utilize the power of momentum if your timing is right. And if your timing is wrong, your advantage of momentum is out the window. And I'm going to say unfortunately, but I've been working with a lot of players about this whole concept that you're talking about. It's develop a play, and so there's more worth that's going on in there. And a lot of the things I've been trying to get particular people to understand lately is if you're going into a cross, because I love teaching wingers in depth about this stuff, and you look up and that is a condensed pocket where you couldn't pick out one of your teammates directly, why don't you recycle the play? Because if we want to get in there, then we might need to bring them out of there to get back into there. And if it's already so condensed.
That's something that I've noticed with my team. Like, it's very, I guess at the JV level, it's really easy to, like, play through one side and then, like, not worry about a switch. Or if you do, like, do one switch, then that one switch is all you need to, like, play through that other side.
You won't have to go boom, boom, boom.
And that's something that I want to see more from my team. I feel like we play very vertical through one side, and then we'll stay on that one side. Whereas if you play, let's say, vertical here, but then when you get to a spot where, you know, it may not be the best place to cross it from, cut it back.
Yeah.
Let's recycle. Let's try and find a better reward.
What would that phrase be? I used to say to them, get us something, right?
Yeah.
And, like, for me, I feel that wingers, when they cross the ball and they got it into the area, sometimes they feel like, oh, job done, I got us something. It was a cross. But I think that they really, especially youth players nowadays, they need to start to connect a successful cross being like a possession pass. A pass that made it to a teammate. They gave him an opportunity to continue cycling possession in offensive third or create a shot. When they cross these balls, they see space or they see a man with another man, and they think if I put it in front of him, job done. For me, I'm trying to get more detail in the wingers' minds to understand that job wasn't done correctly unless you actually found a foot of your teammate somewhere in the danger zone. And if you can't, why not turn, keep it with your fullback, or skip it, come to your 6 so we can shift the point of attack? I would much rather see a winger be smart enough to know when it is to turn back and maintain possession than try to force it through 10 people standing inside of the box.
Yeah, or even like on that one-on-one. Yeah. Or like on that 2-on-2.
Here's the thing about the play developing. If the winger can take the conscientious moment to just slow down for a moment and keep it, make 1 or 2 passes, instead of just going straight for his one-on-one, when they arrive to the box, he might have 3 or 4 available options if he turned to recycle it to get more to help him. If he goes right away, he's going to have maybe 1 available option and or do it himself. So he's got way less opportunity to score because he decided to go so quickly.
And let's think about, like, if he decides to cut back and, like, recycle the play, at the end, where do you think the ball's going to end up? You're probably going to play out to the right-hand side, but you're not going to score from the right side. The right side is probably going to give a cross back to where he is.
Yeah, you're generally scoring from the opposite area and where the ball is.
Exactly.
And normally...
So I think that may be another thing to, like, incentivize, like, hey, the recycle. Because at the end of the day, the ball is, if it's done correctly, is going to come back to you, where you could actually finish close to goal instead of being so far away from goal.
Maybe that's something, too, if you want to see your team start circulating possession a little more often in the offensive third, is you start to show them when and how to identify that the furthest man is free and available, and then how to find him in order to create those opportunities to score. And just incentivize them. Can you find the furthest man in the offensive third? And see if they start to formulate direct diagonals or a more patient passing pattern. And just give them the general consensus, I want to see this player being included more. And watch how they go about doing that. Right now, I have an issue, is that you've mentioned it, is like, what if the winger just goes? Well, both of my, you normally speaking, wingers are the fastest players on your team. They're generally speaking those zoomers. So if they get the ball in a counterattacking moment or a fast progressional moment where we were in possession but we went forward decently quick, and they choose to turn and burn and to go, they're choosing to go relatively alone, or maybe with a 3-headed dragon if you play that way, with a top 3. But that's the choice you're making, is that you're gonna kind of limit your options because of the speed at which you're trying to penetrate the opponents. If you were to take a moment to try to include others and maybe slower progress up the field, you might end up with more options. The argument to that is space equals time, time should equal quality, so if the space is all free and he's the fastest, why wouldn't he go? And again, now that's a debate upon progressional or directional style play versus a more possessional style play, and how those two kind of styles of play differ in the decision making of the player on how the team wants to play in those moments. It's kind of a challenge because what we want to talk about it. It's like when you have 60 to 70% possession, but maybe aren't scoring as many goals. Maybe it's because you've become a bit too possessional and you've gone left to right a little too much. But there are positions on the team where they're doing way too many direct style emotions and they're not able to utilize the width. And so like lately, I've kind of, even in my own world, slowly understood that possession has its worth and its value. It's really important. But I also like to see these players think about how can we get forward with more opportunity or a higher percentage chance to score. That shows me somebody who's including others and not just doing things on their own. And like as a team, we hope to get to a point in which we could progress all 10 field players up the field as a unit together, rather than shooting our front three forward and then meeting them there in the meantime.
You were talking about possession, and I gotta say, I feel like there's not anymore, because people have kind of delved into this, but back when Barcelona was like in its heyday, and people were talking about, oh, Barcelona had 70% possession, 60, like all this stuff. They're like giving too much value to possession in my eyes, because for me, I feel like if you just say, oh yeah, we had 60% possession, doesn't mean much. You're telling me, yeah, you maybe had more of the ball, but in the end, like, what'd you do with it? And I think that's what Zach brought up. It's good that you have different stats that could supplement the actual possession. Did you actually create stuff, create chances with your possession? Where did you have your possession? How many passes did you create with that possession?
Now, don't get me wrong here. I've actually taken a lot of, not heat, but like debates recently about how possession of a stat isn't important. And people know me as the Barca Arsenal positional possession guy. So of course the first time they hear that, who are they going to send it to? Is like somebody who believes in this idea of possession. But and here's the thought of it, is like when you play a game of football, you want to have the ball at your feet, don't you? Do you enjoy more when you have the ball or when you don't? And at the end of the day, ain't nobody going to sit there and tell you that they enjoy running the 7.5 miles a game when they don't have the ball. It has to be done. In fact, in order to win the game, it has to be done. But this is not where necessarily the enjoyment of the game is developed. It's developed within having the ball. And we often say we're going to enjoy playing this game a lot more if I had 70% possession. But you're not if you lost the game in a professional level. Because realistically, you're there to win games, and that's all at that level. So there's like this idea, I don't know, I was talking to my old coach Dana Taylor, and he did a analysis at this coaches convention in Anaheim that took place past weekend, and it was like 240 games, recordings of 240 different games, and he was gathering stats on how possession doesn't lead to results, and that teams with 30% possession and show that on maybe their team heat map is a more direct style where they're in certain areas of the field that do more efficient damage, can lead to a very successful team and in a team that's enjoying what they're doing. And as soon as he finished it, or he started, was developing that, we were talking on the phone, he's like, I'll send it to you. I want you to see this. He plans on adding another 500 games to that analysis in the next year or two. But I firmly believe there's a debate there that states possession has no correlation to the result. I can believe that. I don't believe that I would ever raise a team with that demeanor, that mentality, that thought. Because a lot of the enjoyment I get out of coaching and being a part of football is by teaching having the ball. by teaching enjoying the ball, by teaching sharing the ball in particular is the one.
It's funny that Dana brought that up because when I went to the Jesse Marsh talk, he said that 77% of goals in the professional game come from teams winning the ball and scoring after 10 seconds from winning the ball. So
Transitional plays.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So some people could even look and say possession loses you games.
Oh yeah.
Because it puts you in a dangerous spot to where if you lose the ball, you're going to concede a goal.
Yeah.
Especially
no
against good teams.
There's no doubt. And don't get me wrong, I think that there's more of a application for possessional football in youth football than there is maybe in the highest of levels. And I think that only the particular few can master possessional football in professional football, because you need a team like City that has a starting 11 that are just consistent beyond all belief, and then another 6 people right behind them that are just as equally as talented and consistent. And maybe you could see with like Arsenal now, we don't necessarily have the depth to play at that elite cognitive level for 9 months of the season. And that's why it's such a rare thing to see working at the caliber that City has it going at this moment, where they are just kings of the castle, and they would tell you directly that the possession stat matters like in very massively to their style of play and what they're trying to accomplish. It's just one of those things. It's a matter of preference. And then also I believe in Liverpool's style of play. It's a much less possessive and a much more progressive style and mentality. And it's always been that. They've always been that. And so as a coach, I wanted to find a way to learn what it is to be possessive-minded, but also know how to be progressional. Because a lot of the times when you're teaching a possession-minded team and they have that moment where they can't score goals, aka Barca right now, aka Arsenal right now, they look to somebody to give them the answer on how is that goal going to come next. And if you can't help them find it, it almost could be like the death of that possessional team. Like, oh, we can't score goals, and he's not able to give us the depth and knowledge we need in order to create that goal. And so I think that when you start to become more direct, naturally the game gives you more chances. And that you have to make a choice. Like, do you want to...
And it's not even just the directness, but it's also the second ball. If you think about it,
if it all goes, 77% come from transition.
When your team or when the opposition is all spread out, when they're trying to actually play the meta, so to speak, move the ball, get open, use all the space as possible, that leaves space for you to attack.
100%.
And that was something that I really learned a lot from Jesse Marsh, was cool, that was what his identity was. And like going back to the terminology, instead of saying defending, attacking against the ball.
So then my question, in just like, I don't know why it's come up to my head, would you rather spend more time in press situations or build out ones?
For me,
when you spend time in one, you get to spend time in the other, but that doesn't mean that your focus is going to be on both. It has to be particularly in one area or the other. And if you spend more time pressing, you might lead to more transitional goals in that style of thought.
And you say that you want to have the ball and stuff like that. Well, what if you can have
sessions all the time?
But you can have the ball closer to the other team's goal if you work on the press.
Absolutely.
And you work on like how you guys react as a, let's say, attacking force.
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't think that there's definitely a debate here to where I could be wrong in certain regards, but it's also a choice of matter. Whereas like if I'm gonna have this team, we're gonna work on build out situations so that doesn't happen, so that I feel comfortable.
Yeah, but so let's say you do like work on that, but what are you gonna work on? Like, what's gonna happen when you guys take a shot and it goes not on goal, off goal, and then you have a goal kick?
Well, we could still know our press situations. It's just I'm asking more so when you focus on one or the other, you're going to get one or the other. So if I spent more time in my press situations, I might be winning more balls in the attacking third and have more chance of scoring those counterattack / transitional goals quicker. But one of my favorite things about watching my team play is their patience to pass in front of the net. That composure to just keep the ball under that high pressure moment that we all know if we lose it, it will be a goal, shows a lot of cognitive awareness to those players and their growth. Again, I'll go back to say that's why I see the application of possessional football in youth being really important, because it teaches where to be, when to be, what act is needed in this situation. It's less reactive, it's more cognitive, and you have to be aware of it. And now when these teams are high pressing us, there's that moment where my team is able to just bing, 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 bing. Maybe not every single time, but at least 40-50% of the time, we're able to. And for me, that's the moment you'll see me going, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I get very excited because when possession in those build-out moments go perfectly, we've attracted them all the way into our attacking third to create space in behind, and it's almost like one pass leads to the next, and it just goes in.
For like the quarrel that I've been having with those moments is that doesn't result in a goal. It results in a beautiful play. It doesn't result in you actually creating a chance.
Not every time. It does, but not every time.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, a matter of when it broke down, where it broke down, how do I give an analysis of how we should have decided so that the next time we're in that boom, boom, boom,
And for me,
boom,
how when it always breaks down is when like you're actually split the lines between, or you're in between the defensive and midfield line, and one of your midfielders is driving, and they don't know what to do with the next pass.
I get that. And then that's why I say there's your teaching. There's your ability to raise the player's awareness in game IQ and understanding, and at the cost of a goal-scoring opportunity.
I've been trying to figure out the solution to that play, because I feel like that play is very prominent in positional possession teams. And the thing that I've been seeing very successful is you play like a through ball, but like with outward spin or like side spin, but you hit the ball to where the defender like is. What are the defenders doing? Are they like standing, or are they running backwards?
Dropping back on their heels.
So when they're dropping back, when you actually play the ball to him, the ball is going to be in
10
front
yards
of
in
him
front of him, yeah, roughly.
by the time that the ball gets to him, so he can't actually step and like cover, and it's going to have side spin so that someone could actually run onto it.
You're talking about a high quality pass, though. And for a high schooler to make, he's probably going to do, if you're lucky, 50% of the time correctly.
No, but it's got to be like from the middle space to the wide space.
That's right. And it's not going to be the easiest of passes to make. And if the defender chooses to stay put, it's a one-on-one situation that's generally created. Defenders are always taught to like give him some room and then choose your moment. So I don't feel like every time he's going to drop off and just leave it. You might be stuck in a 1v1 moment right there and then when the ball arrives, which isn't a bad thing in your high and wide area. I just don't think that you can bank on it every time in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
One play that I've seen work super well is a third man action that everybody knows, but it's more about the timing of the cues that are understood by the three men involved. So when my center backs have the ball, I've been trying to get them to pick out the 9 as he's checking into that space as the target. The 9 has a lot of ability, high ability to be able to settle, turn, play in, all that. But I don't want this. I want it to be disguised that that's the next moment, that that's where we're going. And so I've instructed them to be able to see when the center backs are able to play into the 9's feet in a controlled manner. The next first touch off the 9 is going to be immediate, no thought into it, dropped into the 10. When that touch is made, it's a cue for them, both wingers, boom, immediately. And without even the recognition of who's going to get it, now the motion is on as soon as the center back played that successful pass. 3 people, 4 people are in motion, and it's immediate. There's no thought. I wish today's player was more able to do this with each other through experiment rather than like
the coach making a play out of it. Like, I don't know if you saw the post that I put about the top 10 Mexico play where like it was a dummy and then the guy ran into the space.
Yeah.
Like we did that in training. And I was like saying, I was trying to get the boys to like do that in game, because I mean, if that goal goes off, that'd be insane. Like that'd be an insane goal to score. But like for them to actually see that in game, for the center back to actually drive into the space and to see a diagonal line, so like and then actually executing it. Well, I haven't seen people try it in game yet.
And it's interesting because this is where you start to give these ideas to your players and you'll see it happen more often. And that's good. That's part of the process of coaching your team, get them to understand how to attack better. I feel that if they could coordinate their actions more often, they experiment through that process, we would have a much more offensive-minded team. But they need these kind of repetitions in certain sequences before they can like recognize that moment for themselves and then pull the cue. And that's why I go about teaching players how to be more cognitively aware of all the situations and what's going on, because it leads to more collective action. And lately, I've just been watching a lot of solidarity or individual action. And truly, that's not how you break down teams every time. It takes these players to have that X factor. But watching so many games as I have, people aren't going and scoring goals all on their own. Holland needs Kevin to send him the ball. Salah isn't grabbing the ball and going all the way down 50 yards and doing it himself. He needs the people that feed him.
And it's funny that you're talking about this, and like it's a good segue to talk about Kevin De Bruyne and him coming back this weekend. There is a coaching Instagram account called Modern Soccer Coach.
Yeah,
and he was breaking down that guy may be on the podcast.
That'd be sick.
Sneak peek.
I do follow that one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
I've been talking with him too, actually.
Okay.
But maybe in the summer.
Come on down. We'd love to have you.
Shout out Gary Kernine.
Okay.
He was breaking down the De Bruyne goal this weekend, where he received the ball in between the lines and then just drove and took a shot.
Yeah, even with the open of his foot, right?
He was talking about how precise each city movement is, like with the ball or even without the ball, but when the team has the ball. He was talking about how Julian Alvarez was doing good, pinning the two center backs, not letting one of them step out to De Bruyne. He was talking about how good De Bruyne was being in between the two lines so he could actually receive and drive. And then he talked about how Julian Alvarez, his run once De Bruyne received the ball was diagonal. It wasn't a straight run going the same way that De Bruyne's going. He's going the opposite way to still occupy the two center backs and just leave De Bruyne that nice space to goal to just wham, whack it in between.
They often talk about the
legs.
motion of players off the ball in the creation of space to create that moment. And in that, Alvarez is doing this. The whole team is, realistically, with their positioning. It's like the importance of being more self-aware of how all the pieces need to move to create advantage. But to think about how Kevin and his influence in that team is you can see how in the last month and a half, 2 months without him, their results... 4. Their results have not been the same. The scrutiny has been there.
There was no creativity there. No extra, like you said, X factor.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe De Bruyne. He is the X factor.
And then on his returning weekend, after the big talk is everyone's shaken now that he's warming up again, he has a perfect match. He comes in, he sets his assists, he gets his goal. He's clearly one of the, conductors of City right off the bat. I think there was that one pass he made into Holland that was just from almost midfield that curved right in between the two center backs but dropped right into the foot of it. And I'm like, that's what they were missing this whole time. The guy who you could put him on the ball in any of the middle thirds or attacking third areas and he'll create something from a bit of magic. But it's particularly with his pass action that he does it.
I like the way that people describe it. It's like the final pass. That action is probably the hardest action in the game.
It's also my favorite to applaud when I'm a coach.
Yeah.
You'll see me on the game that was the best pass of the game. There's how many? 400 passes a match? 200 a piece usually? So when one is made with that's how you gotta be celebrate it like a goal into some regard.
Yeah.
I know it's not that important, but for me, when I'm on the sideline and I see a pass executed at its top level, top timing, placed in the right area, yeah, that gives me goosebumps. That's like, oh man, that's what I came in to see. That's beautiful.
No, and then you see the antithesis of that, like imagine like a 5 yard, what's supposed to be a 5 yard pass that one teammate just blasts into the other. It's like calma,
Yeah, couldn't
calma.
dress it well. To say that Kevin De Bruyne is like their engine is relatively true.
He's him.
He really is him for that team, because without him, for the first time in 6 years, they tied 3 in a row and had a loss. They're dropping points like nothing else. And with him, bam, they just go and beat the Champions League Newcastle. So trust me, that's no easy feat. So it's like, yeah, okay, we're all watching him do it again. I think the feeling in the Premier League has gone back to, what's the point? It's City's league. But I don't believe that. I think it's going to be Arsenal's league. He believes it's going to be Liverpool's league. And he hasn't
I just know
about that
I just
recently.
know that it's not going to be Arsenal's league. That's all I know.
He's just quoting Jose now.
all I
Mourinho.
know.
Jose Mourinho.
Yeah. We got to talk about another legend. We got to go rest in peace to the boy. Franz Beckenbauer.
Senor Beckenbauer. One for the homie.
For
the legend.
For the dead ones.
And one of the best defenders, to ever play the game.
One of the best liberos, I feel like.
Yeah.
I like how there was one person that made a compilation of
I saw that.
Beckenbauer's Trivellas.
I saw that.
And it was so cool to see like an action, quote unquote, that is like frowned upon in today's game as like something lazy, being like the trademark of one of the GOATs.
A legend, yeah. Yeah, I think Casemiro is the other guy that does it, the Trivela shot really well.
No, Modric.
Modric does it too. He does. That you're right.
Ricardo Quaresma.
In today's football, youth players are somewhat told not to use the outside of their feet as much because of the lack of control that they have. And it is interesting to see one of the all-time greats using that technique to almost not perfection, but to a very high elite level.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the bottom line is that you need to be able to control the ball with all surfaces of your foot.
I think the bottom line is like you gotta be comfortable with what you know. Like, let's say if a coach is telling you to not use the outside of the foot, but that's how you can get the pass from point A to point B in a certain way, what's wrong with that? Are you really gonna not do that in the game because coach said it so? Do you think your coach is gonna be upset at you if you make that pass and it actually gets to that player? What is he going to say? You better not use your outside of the foot. No, man.
I will be mad at you. I will say you should have made that with your left, but it was a decent effort.
And you know what?
I won't get mad at it.
I'd be like, Coach.
Yeah, got it there. Yeah.
That was for you, Coach.
But in the ideas that, like, I like players to understand that was a risky effort, and if you just open your foot and push, it could have been less risky.
Why? What makes risk about it?
Speed and accuracy. Using the outside of your foot.
So what if that person has a more speed or more accuracy with the outside than with his weak foot?
Then he will continue to have a weak foot.
Yeah.
And my job is to take that away. So I guess here's the thing. Using the outside of your foot is necessary in football. Just know you're trading speed or accuracy for speed. That's the trade-off. When you use the outside of your feet, you get faster actions, you get less accuracy. So in a sense, as long as you're aware of that, there's no problem using the outside of your foot. But in that same moment, if you make that pass with the outside of your foot and it doesn't get to its target, now I get to be like, well, you should have made it with your left, you know. But you're right, if you get it to that target, if I'm a coach on that sideline, I go, nothing said.
Yeah.
And he handled it.
Nothing
needs to be said.
I guess what I want to say is, like, be creative with like Tony was saying, be creative with your identity and who you are as a footballer. If your signature is going to be the outside the foot, then you better be the best.
It's also interesting that
foot, you know?
He was known for that. Like, when you think about him as a player, I don't know if that's the
Beckenbauer.
first thing. Yeah, Beckenbauer. That's the first thing you'd think is like his trait. Is his Trivela with outside of the foot.
No, I think the first thing for me is like the defender that moves up.
Yeah, okay.
That's the first thing that I think about.
And that's why you labeled him a libero.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because most people would think that position doesn't exist in football.
Like it shouldn't exist,
like the
or
libero
it doesn't
anymore.
Mm.
Like that position
I,
that he
I love
played
that.
and
I love
owned
that
doesn't
position.
exist necessarily anymore.
I absolutely love that position, especially with my three backs.
Like the safety net guy.
Yeah, like I know the middle center, like the middle center back in a middle three has to be like, sorry to say that word again, overused. Him.
I
He's got to be him.
I got this may be a bit off sides, but I got a sophomore right now that I'm working with that I put all that pressure on, and boy has he come out of it so well. He is him for us, and he's young too. So to have all that pressure put on his shoulders, and to be coming out of these tough games where like easily 10 different one-on-one moments a game in front of our net. Done really, really well with that position and that pressure, because it's a really hard role to do. And I think you're right when you think about Beckenbauer, that's the role in which you kind of think about, is that guy who was in the back line who was solid but would be coming to drive it up.
I wonder if he was the one that really popularized that position, or if there was anybody else that like influenced him in that position.
I feel like when I grew up as a player, sweeper, libero, backline, whatever you wanted
The
to
Italians,
see.
no?
Yeah, you saw it so much more than you see it today. Like, it was actually a very common position to have on the field.
Oh, 100%.
Especially growing up in youth football, we had it
Oh,
everywhere.
oh yeah.
We had it everywhere, and it was like, I don't know, slowly but surely made its way out of the game in the last 10 years. Like, it's also like that 10 role, that just true attacking guy can go anywhere, whenever,
Yeah.
however, slowly moving its way out of the game. Although I've recently got a new idea for one of my formations to give that freedom to another player, and I'm really excited to see how that works. Because I have one of the most talented players I've ever worked with relative to his age group right now, and I want to see what...
Are you gonna drop the sauce, or are you just gonna leave it
I'm
in the air?
just gonna leave it in the air, because of future podcasts I'll drop the sauce, and just know it's Alfredo, because you could put Alfredo on anything. I said that this weekend with my friends, and it was so fun. It's like, what's your favorite sauce? And I was like, without hesitation, Alfredo. You could put that shit on anything.
Nah, Alfredo. You gotta go with some of that cane sauce.
No,
bro.
dude,
that's that real
I'm telling
sauce.
you, I love Alfredo sauce. It's one of the best things in the world to me.
No.
Obsessed with it.
Now you're talking about like things that you love.
Sorry, there's my loopiness
and
coming back.
food that you like to eat. How about we talk about like pregame rituals and like ways that players prepare themselves for the game, how they should prepare, if they should prepare themselves a certain way. I gotta start with this with a little story, a little anecdote. There was this study that was done on 3 different groups of individuals. They'll say Group A, Group B, and Group C. Group A, all these 3 groups were tasked to do free throws, basketball free throws. And they all like did initial tests on day 1. They all got like relatively the same scores. Then the second test was done after 30 days. One group was tasked to do no basketball related activities. They cannot think about basketball. They cannot practice throwing a basketball. Nothing. Group B was tasked to only visualize themselves shooting the basketball and putting it into the net. Now Group C was tasked to actually practice very small, just 10 minutes on a day-to-day basis for the next 30 days. And the results were interesting. Group A, obviously the group that didn't do anything, didn't have any change in their free throws. Why? Well, because they didn't put any time, right? Group B, the one that was visualizing, actually got a 24% increase in their free throws just from the visualization alone. That's insane.
It's a powerful stat. And Group 3 got what?
Group 3, the one that actually practiced, got 26%. So
it's
this
really
study's
close.
showing that you can either visualize it or you could actually practice it, but either or
is necessary.
If you want to improve.
Yeah.
If you want to improve.
If we talk about pregame rituals and just the thought of visualization was one of my favorite behaviors growing up. Because who doesn't lay their head down at night the day before a game and dream themselves scoring the hat trick tomorrow, or setting up multiple goals, or saucing on this dude and hearing the whole bench go, "Oh!" Like
Alfredo saucing on him?
you
Like
heard. But yeah, who like like you're growing up, like I don't know, that's I recall doing that before every game and honestly truly like loving it, almost to the point where I would stay up too late, which is obviously you need your sleep to get a proper preparation, but like it kept me up thinking about all the things that I was going to try or do tomorrow successfully. And you could see 8-year-old Zach before like his first club team doing that, and you could see 18-year-old Zach before my last high school or top club match doing it, and 22-year-old Zach in a college final in the NCAA doing it. Visualization the night before of all the successes and the things in which you want to accomplish or try for the game tomorrow is one of the most powerful tools you can use. And for me as a winger, obviously back in the day, Thierry Henry was popping goals in like crazy. So I would watch those compilation videos on YouTube of certain actions, behaviors, runs that I wanted to try to emulate, literally see it and do it tomorrow, which gave me then ideas the next day when I hit the field.
I like that you brought that up because some people may say like, oh well, Zach, how do you visualize? What do you do in your visualization? And you're talking about Thierry Henry and you imagining him. He plays in your position. You want to do actions that Thierry Henry does because he's doing it at the highest level. One of the visualization exercises that I tell my boys, it's like, I want you to imagine that you're in a table, right? You're having dinner. And you get to choose the guests of who's at the dinner table with you. What you want in your dinner. So you're talking to, let's say if I'm a winger and I'm Zach, I'm 18-year-old Zach. I want to have Thierry Henry because I want to have your finishing ability in front of goal. And then I have Pavel Nedved because I want to have your speed with the ball and without the ball. And I want to have all these different players that have these certain attributes to add to your game. And now you're looking specifically at people that are at the highest level and the specific quality that you want to see in your own game to try and translate it into what you want to manifest for the next game that you have.
And it was more than just the general qualities in which they had that I wanted to emulate. They were particular actions made in specific areas of the field that led to certain advantages that I wanted to emulate as well. And one I could think of particularly, I used in college very often, was when I played on the left wing and I'd spend the first 3 or 4 actions showing them my right foot curlers and thinking about diagonal plays and all of that. And then on the 5th play would drive right down their right side, which is my left. I'm going very direct at this point. And usually doing that in the attacking third areas of the field. So it would arrive into the box in a very direct path. And I would watch Henry do this often. And as he would do that, the second the goalkeeper decided to shift over to his near post was the moment in which Henry just tucked a left-footed pass to the right post. And after seeing it 10, 12, 13, 14 times, I went to go practice that act. I wanted to be good at that play. And I realistically in high school I didn't really master it. I learned through my experiments on how to find the moment and then act upon it. But through those actions I was failing in learning. Mm-hmm. And then something clicked in college. And it was just I continued to practice that action, a sequence of actions that led to that advantage, and it just ended up clicking for me. So there was a little power of that visualization tool where I was watching more than just general attributes, but actual sequences of actions that I wanted to say, well, if I receive the ball in that area of the field tomorrow, I'm going to try that.
And that's better because you're actually breaking it down to every single scenario that you may face in the game, instead of just like speed, finishing, dribbling.
That was the fun of visualizing for me. Breaking it down. I was like almost making my own game in my head.
Like a playbook almost, as if in NFL, like you have certain plays for certain defenses. Whenever the defense sets up this way, we do this. It's very, and like, how would you say? Very meticulous with the way that you're analyzing it.
And honestly, was entertaining for me. So when we talk about just rituals in preparation for games, That was the very beginning step, was having a good meal, nutrition, visualization of the night before. These were the very first steps of my ritual practice whenever I was preparing for a game. Then you wake up, and I usually had the same meal every game day, and I don't know why, but it just works for me. And it's 2 pieces of toast, it's eggs, it's potatoes. I put the toast, butter, eggs on top, potatoes on top of the eggs, and I eat these 2 little sandwiches, so to speak. And for whatever reason, it's just enough substance, food, everything for match day for me. And get some water. Now my body's nutrients and everything of that nature is prepared. Is in high school, younger ages, part of my ritual was obviously getting in my parents' car and having to get taken to the match. And weirdly enough, I don't know if all players are like this, but for me it was. Whether the game was 20 minutes away, 2 hours away, however far away it was, I would nap. I would take either like a 5-minute nap or like a 20-minute nap, depending on the distance. And my dad thought it was crazy growing up because I would go from like this 0 to 100. Like in the car, you'd see me knocked out cold. The second we arrived to the field, it was almost like light switch. Let's do this. And it was like an interesting part of my ritual where my body, I don't know why it does this, anytime before I'm about to exuberate or express a lot of energy, it almost shuts down for a moment. And then it's able to like express or, shoot out, explode with an insane amount of energy. But before it does that, it does this very hibernating state. It like combs in, quiets down, and then boom. And that's what I was like practicing, I guess, as a kid. And then as I got older, it was different. The pregame rituals in college were more fun. It was more team-oriented. We all went to the AT room together, start doing prep work, tape works, all that stuff. Go to the locker room, play some FIFA in the locker room with the music banging and getting into each other's vibes. Spend like 30, 40 minutes knocking the ball around on the field before the coach was giving his tactics, starting lineups, and things like that. But I feel like all of those things leading up to that match are necessary physical and mental preparations in order for you to succeed within the match.
And the key, I think, is for you. The same routines that Zach did are in the same routines that you have to do, or the same routines that little Johnny or Billy have to do. You have to find what your routine is as a person and then being consistent with that. Because if you know that this is the way that you, as a player, are going to come to the game day, locked in, prepared, however you want to call it, to the max, then that is what you have to do. And you know that you're going to come. It gives you like a sense of confidence, like, I did everything right today, so I know I'm going to ball out. There's nothing that's going to stop me because I know I did my ritual good.
And what are the 5 P's?
Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Thank you, Juan Mena. Love you, man. But that's straight up it. Proper preparation does prevent poor performance. It allows us to perform at a higher caliber and consistency. And you have to do certain things, 1, to feed your soul, but 2, to feed what the team's agenda is. And so in high school, you could see how my ritual was more personal and individualistic. And then as I got to college, there's time for that. And there's time also that the team has to come together and collectively prepare mentally, tactically, physically as well. And those rituals, they're important. Like, I know it's not silly. It's not whatsoever. Is that 45 minutes before I got the team tactics talk in college and the starting lineup and everything, you had the time to go out in the field and knock the ball. Personally, that was my time to put my headphones in. I had just spent an hour with the team, so I was going to actually go out there and get my mind ready. And I did it for 45 minutes. I spent with some of the hardest tunes in my music or my ears and just jamming away, but doing all these little cuts, shots, touches, things that I would have to emulate 30 minutes from now at high speed under pressure. And it was 45 minutes of serious touches for me where nobody could speak to me, not even my head coach. Nobody came and knocked me on my shoulder, say, hey, it wasn't like that. It was 45 minutes for just me to touch the ball. And it was super important because it was actually the music that I felt was giving me energy and power, not necessarily the touches. That was just to stay current and consistent. But it was, for me, always been music has been like some people call it like that crutch when you're in the gym, but it's empowerment for me. And that part of my ritual, without it, I would have felt less free. I wouldn't have had my personal time. And so it was incredibly important for me to perform at a high level, to have that time, to listen to my music on just my own accord in my head.
I think the final thing from preparation for me is like, it's not just the day of or the day before, but it's the whole week before the game. Like, you can't just think that the day before you get your preparation started. The other team has been starting the preparation 5 days ago. So it's not just about the day of the game or the day before the game. It's what you do throughout the whole time that will actually show in the game.
Yeah, and I guess you could say if you do it in that regard, you think about it in that regard, then we can just talk about how that's going to develop your discipline as well.
As a footballer,
yeah, and in
the
order to make it to the
professionalism.
next level, what we're truly talking about there is how to be consistent and be disciplined within the consistency. And honestly, one, that's something for an entire podcast, because it's something I feel like all athletes in all sports are truly sought after, and what we're trying to accomplish is that consistency and discipline. And in fact, I think a lot of the times in our lives as athletes, it also creates that discipline, kind of creates a secluded world, isolating world. It's hard to be the one that's always going to work when you know you're trying to outwork the competition, but that some people don't even work in the first place. And so to stay consistent and disciplined is to know that you're trying to accomplish something for yourself that's bigger than yourself. And I think it's a huge, massive topic for all sports athletes.
For an upcoming podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It just brings me back to Spain when we were, Easter Sunday on our way to church, and it was like, we're talking with your brother about it. So how do we be disciplined and consistent? Man, I'm on my way to 30, and I'm still working on that equation in life, But it's one of those things that athletes, we're trying to master.
Any
day in and day out.
high-level individual.
It's true.
Needs to have that, because if not, then you can't be high level.
What do we say? A person of excellence. A person of excellence absolutely needs discipline. Absolutely needs to be able to know what it means to be consistent.
Why? Because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
And if everyone else is actually achieving the excellence, there is no more excellence for you to achieve if you're not doing it.
Yeah, I saw, and I know it's a common statement, but I saw Joe Rogan say it recently, and he was just like, there is no part of my body or brain that wants to do this. And that's why I'm doing it. And that is the thought I always tell myself when I'm in that mental state. It's 6 in the morning when it's 52 degrees outside, which it has been lately. San Diego's been cold.
Shit,
in my first thought, my brain and my body, I know, whatever. But my brain and my body are like, I'm not leaving this bed. And then that thought in itself is the motivating factor to then get up and get out of bed. It's like, I know this is the last thing I really need or want, but it's what I need to do to be disciplined. I have a lot of things to accomplish this morning. If I don't get them done, I can't continue my work tomorrow. Discipline. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
On that note, Zach, where can we find you, man?
You can find me at ZJ Kaizen. You can find us at Train Zone Sports. The name is undergoing a development, evolve, in an evolved state.
Evolution?
An evolutionary state. But yeah, you could find me at ZJ Kaizen at Train Zone Sports. And what about you?
Find me at JC Kruger M or at Coach JCKM. I'm trying to get to 10K views on my goal post. We're almost there.
Yeah, and we're going to be releasing a post soon about the signups for Friday trainings when it comes to maybe getting an extra level of training in with me and JC in a very professional field with the top level equipment. I've worked kind of hard on a few different, marketing designs, so we'll be putting that out there, adding it to a page on our website, and slowly taking in signing processes so we can get a group training going on with certain players that want to get extra work in. And then besides that, continue to look for our products that will be coming out in the near future as we look to expand both the podcast, the business, and as well as our coaching careers.
Amen.
How's that sound?
Amen.
I'm just amazed we made it through it.
We did it.
I'm so proud.